Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm your host, Sarah.
And this week on the show, we are talking about Star Wars Tempest Breaker,
Ayo.
the latest audio drama original from Cavan Scott in the world of the High Republic. And this is officially Cavan Scott's last High Republic novel. Wowie zowie. How could we not talk about it?
Did we just listen to Cavan Scott's last, big thing? I know he's got he's still doing the comics, right?
Yeah. We still have Cavan Scott comic left, but
wow.
book, audiobook, High Republic stuff. It's gonna be.
Why would you
one of the last.
That? You gotta stop telling me lasts. You really got it.
I don't suspect Cavan Scott obviously is going anywhere in the world of Star Wars, and I'm sure we'll get more audio dramas from him. So here we are.
Wow.
Phase 3 is gonna conclude next year.
Wow. I mean, I knew that, but damn.
I know.
I sometimes I think about it in the moment and then sometimes I don't. And then when you say it so plainly, this is the last this, or we're this far through the end, and I'm like, wait a second, turn back time. I want to go back.
See, I say all
it's
that
weird.
Not to make us sad, but because it's like that Ferris Bueller quote, if life goes too fast, you don't stop to look around every once in a while. I butchered that quote completely. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. We got there in the end.
So this is our moment to be like, hey, Cavan Scott, great job. Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment to talk about Cavan Scott's work in the High Republic. How about that?
Yeah. Still haunting me to this day.
Rising Storm, I think you and we were just talking about how badly we want the same experience reading The Mask of Fear at the same time together and having the same reactions. Yeah. But Rising Storm was literally a book that you and I finished within what?
20 minutes
of each other?
Yeah, literally the craziest, one of the craziest friendship experiences is I don't know who finished it first, but one of us sent a selfie in complete and utter shock to the other. And then the reply 20 minutes later was the same sort of selfie in complete and utter shock at the end of that book. It was crazy that it happened like that. Yeah, especially because these days, one of us is majorly behind the other. Lately, it's been me, guys. Don't worry about it. You can blame me.
Although it was me for a couple books here and there.
That's right.
Let's be real.
We go back and forth. I think we're just gonna. I think we were less busy at this. We were, because it was kind of, still early-ish throughout 2021 was relatively early in the pandemic life cycle of our lives. So things were definitely not back to, quote unquote normal at that point. I think we had a lot more time on our hands. Now we are busy adults with lots of obligations, which make it a little bit more difficult. I think we've been finding, but we keep trucking through. We finished this one pretty much within 24 hours of each other, which was, hey, look at us go. We still got it.
I finished it 2 hours ago. You finished it 55 minutes ago. So
that's right.
We're rocking and rolling.
I would have finished it last night, but I didn't. That's on me. That's my bad. I went to bed.
I also would have finished it last night if not for Garbage Band deleting an hour of Tempest or Tears of the Nameless editing progress.
Yeah.
So that set me back a little bit.
Our fellow podcasting friends are probably going to be like, Brad, you edit on GarageBand? You could be using XYZ platform. So get ready for those messages from our friends and peers.
Mm-hmm. Friends of the Force is over party. They use Garbage Band. How dare them?
But it's Brad's, if it's not broke, don't fix it, except it is broke.
Yeah. See, the problem is if I just start a new system, it's going to take me so long to learn that the edits are going to go back up to 6 hours a piece again. And I can't do that. I got too many video games to play. I got the new Indiana Jones game. I got to get into it. I got to get into it ASAP. So
yeah, he's got obligations. He's got obligations. And by that, he means his butt on his couch. Cozied up.
Yeah.
Catching the latest Destiny raid or whatever.
Close. There's a new dungeon coming out in 2 months. You're close.
What
there's raids and there's dungeons. Okay.
I've never heard dungeon.
We're not going to talk. We'll circle back to that. We're going to take that one offline.
Got it.
As you can
Okay.
see, I'm corporate pilled right now because I'm literally becoming important at my job and it's ruining my life. Going back to Cavan Scott, yes, the early days of the pandemic, getting to read the High Republic. I remember specifically though being like where I was, the weather, like almost what I was wearing when we finished the book. You were on the back
porch.
Yeah.
You were on the back porch. I was I think, in my room. I knew where you are.
Yeah, and I knew where you were. You were in your bed. I think you were wearing a blue shirt.
I was in my room. I was wearing a blue shirt. You were sitting in a white chair. Yeah, these are just things. But yeah, no, Cavan's work has haunted me to this day. I think the narratives that he has built throughout this whole thing have been so interesting, and I'm so glad we've gotten Lourna Dee throughout, the audios and the comics. Even though we kept up with the Adventures comics a little bit more than the main line, Lourna Dee has kind of popped in and out of the books and stuff. So it's been exciting to watch these characters evolve over these stories with him. And now that you've said it's the end, I can't believe we're at the end. I mean, this probably isn't the end for Lourna Dee. I would imagine she pops back up in our final adult novel or what have you. But damn. Okay.
I know. I would also love Lourna. I feel like she's got some unsettled business with Marchion Ro, which don't cancel me, okay?
Oh,
don't cancel me here, but
I might.
I don't know why.
I can't make any promises.
I'm not saying I'm coming around to it fully. She knows what I'm gonna say. The Marchion is kind of it's kind of growing on me.
Oh,
it's I'm not saying I support it quite yet. I'm not saying fully. I'm just saying I didn't cringe as much this read, but I just listened to a 6-hour audiobook, so maybe I just got used to it. And so maybe a little bit of separation will make me feel repulsed by the idea again. I was feeling a certain way when I read it. I was like, oh.
Sure. Well, we'll talk about that one offline. But
you know what I think it is? I think it's when you hear Lourna Dee's actress, which we should pull up the cast list while we're talking, so I can properly credit them.
Yes.
I think it's the fact of like when Lourna Dee, who's played by Jessica Almazy, I think it's her saying it. I think it's her, like Marchion. Like I think it's that. I think it's that. It's the exactly.
I respect you as a person. But I don't respect that opinion. I mean, not her performance, which was good and enjoyable, but just your enjoyment of Marchion. That was a little bit alarming to hear from you after so long.
I know. Anyways, we'll just forget I said that. We've just lost 10 listeners. It's fine.
Right.
But yeah, no, Lourna Dee is great. I love her. I think she'll show up again. It's been a while since I've read Tempest Breaker or Tempest Runner, and I know I enjoyed that book quite a bit, getting to know more about like Lourna's past and growing up on Ryloth, especially how she used to be a princess, and like I thought that was very interesting. So I would have maybe had liked to have done a reread of that or re-listen of that prior to going into Tempest Breaker. We will both admit that we were also behind on the Cavan Phase 3 line. I think I only was able to read the first issue at one point. Just haven't caught up quite yet. But she's such an interesting character, and I'm happy that, we have a badass lady on the Nile just with a cortosis sword now. Like that's the coolest shit ever. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but like, damn, she's cool. I love her.
Yeah, except she's not with the Nile anymore.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that.
Yeah, spoilers.
Do we want to hit any news before we kind of like really dive into the audiobook?
Yeah.
The audiodrama, rather.
Yeah. I guess real quick up top, we did get a cover reveal today for the Acolyte visual guide.
Ooh.
We did find out that there'd be, which I don't know if we knew this already, a foreword by Amanda Stenberg.
I don't recall.
Okay. That might have been a Comic-Con reveal, but I thought that was cool. I like Chimere's helmet on the front cover, just right in your face. It's pretty cool.
It was alarming. Alarming. I opened up that notification to the Tooth Fairy's mask, like right in front of me, and I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot how much this mask actually unsettled me.
Yeah. But I'm gonna have that moment again when it arrives in the mail sometime next year, the big box.
Right. And be like, oh shoot, I forgot I ordered this. But like, thank God, I'm gonna be like looking through it and be like, oh, I love this stuff. Acolyte, I miss you so bad. Come back in my life, please.
Yeah. Me ordering the Acolyte merch is like little tiny time capsules that like will just randomly appear at my doorstep. I'm like, oh yeah, good times.
I saw a Master Soul figure at the store the other day, and I was just like, oh, sad.
Oh man, take me back. But no, pretty cool.
To the good days.
I love a good visual guide, so I'm excited to see like what's in there. Maybe if there's any tidbits that we learned that we didn't catch from the show. Very excited about that. But I also think most importantly for news wise, I know Skeleton Crew has kicked off. It's hopefully first of several seasons, because I would love to see a Star Wars TV show that isn't helmeted characters get more than one season. But aside from that, I know we will not be covering it on the podcast, unfortunately, just because we have a lot going on. It's end of year. We're trying to spend time with our families, wrap up. I'm moving and I'm in the process of moving into a house at the moment still. Yeah, so like, it's just really
big life things going on right now.
Yeah. It's really tough, but you and I watched the first couple episodes. So what did you think? Cause I know you're like first and foremost, and probably what you're going to talk about is a certain character that you love.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see like where the season will go. I don't think it's like a show super for me, which like not everyone is going to be, but Neil is the love of my life. Nobody ever hurt him. If anybody hurts him, if anyone wants to hurt him, they will have to go through me. It is so serious. And actually all of the kids, you can't see me. This isn't a video podcast, but I've got my eyes on you if you have a bad opinion about these precious children. But I'm so curious to know like what the mystery behind their planet is. And truly, Neil is a precious baby boy. Just the most delightful, most lovely, most Niku of them all. Brad, you made that connection, and I watched it and was like, oh, he's right. This is a Niku-esque kind of character, which just brought so much joy to my heart. So I'll be really, really kind of curious to see how it unfolds and potentially kind of watch it all in one binge for me. I'd see how it fares for me then.
Yeah, if that's kind of how you're going to watch it, I'd be really curious to like how that experience is. I will say like so far it's been very good. I really enjoyed Jude Law. His character is really interesting. I like some of the stuff going on with like their planet and like the treasure and all, like there's a lot of like piratey theming to the show, which I love. It wasn't just like the marketing. It wasn't just kind of a gimmick. Like it's really ingrained in the show, which is kind of cool. So like, and I think the most important thing for me, and why I'm enjoying the show is it's just kids getting to be kids, Like I often feel like a lot of times when we see kid actors in Star Wars, they're sort of relegated to another character's story. I mean, I love Vivian Lyra Blair as Leia, but like, let's be real, Obi-Wan is the focus of that show. And while she does get to shine, it is truly like, when I say that, I like, they are the two main characters.
The show is called Obi-Wan.
It's called Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But like, that is my baby girl, baby Leia show. I love her. I will start crying over baby Leia.
But like when you have a show like Skeleton Crew and like in the lead up to the show, and it's not a secret, this is a kid's show with kids in it, and they get to be on the press tour. And I know our friends over at Sky Talkers did some great coverage and a great interview with them that you should go check out. But like there's a lot of warmth and like, and just like, I don't know, it's just shit seems so bad nowadays. It's just, I don't know. This is like kind of coming at the right time for me where I'm just like, I want to sit down, have a total like banger end credits music going on.
It's so good.
Little, like makes you want to like swing my ass a little bit, like, like do a little like shoulder, little shoulder dance. Yeah. Ooh.
you.
And it just makes me feel good. So that's why I'm enjoying it quite a bit. But yeah, and it's just charming. It's charming. It's the way I've kept describing it. It's just charming. And who knows, maybe like if we have some time, maybe we'll do like a season episode or something later on, to be determined, but
totally.
We hope all of you who are watching it are enjoying it as much as we might be. So, and yeah, Neil is the cutest. Protect Neil. I agree with that.
Protect Neil at all costs.
I would say if like Neil dies in the show, I'll just never watch Star Wars again.
First of all, they wouldn't. Second of all, that would be the cruelest thing ever. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't even think about it, Star Wars or any of them or any of these precious children. Okay.
Yeah. Or if like Neil gets like subverted by like the Mando showing up for an entire episode and we're like, Neil, a week without Neil. That would be equally bad.
You're so real for saying that. It's like if they put an episode of The Mandalorian, like 5 episodes into their show about somebody else completely. And we would be like, where's Neil? This is a good episode of The Mandalorian, but like, where's Neil?
That does bring up a good point though. Like Neil and Baby Yoda. Grogu, I should say. I don't know why I just said Baby Yoda. It's been like 3 years.
Because he was Baby Yoda for like 3 years.
I know.
Before he got a name. That's why you call him Baby Yoda. I get it. Like it happens. They failed to give him a name early.
Neil and Grogu? That'd be kind of cute.
I think all of our little faves should get together. So like the kid crew here, Grogu, Nubs, Niku, and Kaz.
It's like Young Avengers.
Young Avengers, but it's all of like the kid character. Omega.
Oh, yeah.
Put everybody together. Hold on. And not just Nubs. I think we get the whole Young Jedi Adventures crew, the whole Resistance crew, Omega, just because the people around her are all old. Sorry to the Bad Batch. And the kids on this one, I want them to have a little roundtable conversation. We can talk about Gorgs. We can talk about all of our favorite things in the galaxy.
Food.
I think we could talk about our favorite games. Maybe they could play and the kids from The Last Jedi. We get them too.
Facts.
I love them.
Man, Broom Boy would have loved hanging with the Skeleton Crew kids.
That's what I'm saying. Broom Boy would be all about that.
Like Wim and Broom Boy playing with their figures. Like that'd be a moment for the ages.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Stop. Hold the phone. Somebody write like a really wholesome little fan fiction one shot about them playing with like these little figures and thinking about the Jedi. Okay. Stop.
I love it.
Cry now. That's the cutest thing I've ever heard.
Well, also, as we kind of, keep the show rolling here, and speaking of some of the other cutest things that we've ever seen in Star Wars, little ones especially, and in light of Grogu, we have to mention this before we go into Tempest Breaker, which is
where are you going?
Our little boy, Rada the Hutt from the Clone Wars.
Oh my god!
From the Clone Wars movie.
Oh my god!
is going to be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and Rada the Hutt, aka nicknamed Stinky, by Ahsoka, is going to be played by Jeremy Allen White, best known for his role in The Bear.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When that got sent to me in a group chat, like that little like variety like graphic. I thought I was being punked. Like first of all, like I thought I was being played. Second of all, I was like, this isn't ad libs. Like this.
This is like somebody put like Chat GPT like surprise Mandalorian casting news, and like that's what it spit out.
I swear to God, it's a prank. Like that's a Mad Libs. Like somebody's like pick a popular male actor, and they're like, oh yeah, Jeremy Allen White, and they're like pick a tertiary hated Star Wars character, Stinky. Pick an upcoming Star Wars movie, Mandalorian and Grogu. Like that's what it feels like to me. Like I'm sorry, like it's so unserious. Like it's so unserious and so nonsensical that like I don't have any words other than that. Good for him. Get your coin. Get your bag. Like
I can't believe we almost didn't talk about that, because that is just like objectively like the most unserious headline I've ever, like I read that and I'm just like, we're done. Star Wars is just so unserious. It's fine, but it's like so funny. It's just like, I love it. You just
like,
you just gotta laugh.
Like I believe it, but like I do not believe it. Like I do, like I simply like I like yeah, Variety's telling me it. Like I trust Variety, but like but like that's a prank, bro. Like that's not real.
But anyways, my point being, I would love to see Stinky hang out with the kids as well. But like,
okay, that's
little version of Stinky voiced by Jeremy Allen White, going past me the fucking whatever it is in the kitchen that he wants.
Stop! It's so unserious.
Yeah. I love that.
Fine.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, I guess with that.
You know what? I'm just excited to have some Star Wars on the big screen, whatever it is. I just, I want to go sit in the theater. I want to have a little tub of popcorn with some butter. Right. And I want the lights to go off. Mm-hmm. And I want to see whatever crawl they're going to put on the screen because they're going to do the crawl.
Right.
And I just want to suspend it all. I just want to suspend it all. I don't even care how good it is, how bad it is. I just want to be there. This is where magic happens.
Yeah, right. At the AMC theaters specifically. Well, speaking just like the tangent completely away from Star Wars for 1 second, we just have to like hit the zeitgeist moment for like 2 seconds. Wicked. What was your experience seeing Wicked in the big screen, theater dark, bucket of popcorn better?
It was great. I mean, minus the 2 people next to us who like basically had a conversation for the entire movie and were on their phones. Great movie.
Yeah, I agree. So
I don't know how Wicked ends, which I know like how it ends.
You don't. But you don't know how it ends?
Yeah, like I got like what happens to Fiyero kind of spoiled for me. Like I don't know anything. Like nobody tell me anything.
Spoil anything that happens in the second act / part 2 of Wicked for Brad, please. Like I'm so serious. Like let him experience that one moment.
Oh,
actually, there are like 3 moments that I'm thinking about. One will make you cry. One will make you maybe also cry. And this one might also make you cry.
Great.
It'll go well. It'll go well for you.
I just don't know how I've lived like as long as I have to not know what happens at the end of Wicked. Like how is that possible? How did I sing Defying Gravity at so many parties in college with my friends and I don't know how Wicked ends? Yeah. Yeah, that was like always that was like always like real late in the night.
I did see somebody tweet, that's the context for Defying Gravity? Holy shit. And be like, I've never understood the weight of that song. Like I know that song, but I've never understood the weight of that song until it happens.
Me neither. I never really understood it. I'm just like, this is a banger. I'm going to sing with my friends. And then seeing it on the big screen, I was like, oh, nice.
I have like 2 seconds of a story and then we're going to talk all about Lourna Dee. I swear to God. But I have known about this musical probably pretty much since it came out in 2003. I saw it as a kid in 2007 and again a couple years ago. But I have known the music pretty much my whole life. And when I saw it a couple of years ago, I know exactly how the lift on the Broadway stage kind of works. Like I know she steps into it, she buckles herself in, it's got the big cape, it's a whole thing, they bring her up, right? I had shoulder shaking sobs, just like sobbing so loud. I was wearing a mask, thank God. And so nobody would see my snotty face, just sobbing into the intermission. I know exactly how that song goes. I know how they sing it. I know what it means. And it had never hit me like that before. I was like, oh, devastating. Anyway,
I love that.
Come back in a year from now, listener, and you'll get our Wicked Part 2 updates and we'll finally experience Brad learning how Wicked ends.
Yeah, maybe that could be like a Patreon episode. Brad reacts to Wicked. How did he not know?
Do you know the end of Phantom of the Opera?
No, I'd never seen it.
Phantom of the Opera?
I have no idea what it's about, except like a guy is not that great looking when he takes off his mask, but it's like, oh, you're a monster, but I love you. That's all I know. And there's also like a chandelier thing that happens in the...
Oh my God. We're going to fix that someday. You're going to love Phantom of the Opera. Okay. Wow. I think I tried to get you to watch Phantom of the Opera a couple years ago. Anyway, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll bully you until it happens. That's our updates and pop culture segment of this episode. We have to get it all out for the people, you know? But that brings us to the meat of this conversation, which is none other.
The tasty meats.
Than our girl. No, we're not talking about the Drengir. There's no Drengir here.
Damn it.
No Drengir here.
There actually is a Drengir in this book.
Oh. Did I miss the Drengir?
I think there's like a Drengir that's like fighting in a pit somewhere. When they like go to get some information on Muglin.
The mechanics of that were very interesting.
Yeah.
They were like prize matches. Anyway, we're here to talk about Lourna Dee and the important Real Daro 60 Minutes Lourna Dee interview exclusive. And the stories she tells throughout it. And I love it. I love the setup. So let's just get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of that like storytelling device with like the real Lourna flashback, flash forward, kind of not knowing where the story's going? And also like towards the end, I realized like, ooh, did we not actually hear the whole truth from Lourna? Like, are we hearing Lourna's version of the truth or are we hearing the actual truth? And I had that thought.
Oh my gosh.
At the end of the book.
Yeah. I definitely was feeling that as well, especially because I was like that one SpongeBob meme where he's like looking at the two different pages in the book. Cause I was like, wait a second. Bulin, he's a terrible person and I know not to trust him. And then I was like, Marchion, he's a terrible person and I know not to trust him. Who do I trust?
Who do I believe in that situation?
Like, what's happening to me right now? I feel so duped.
Do I believe the Emperor or do I believe Sheev Palpatine, who's not the Emperor?
Right. Or yeah. It's like in episode 3 before he gets lightninged and then he looks old.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, they're the same person, but they're not. Anyway. I really liked the setup for this. I was excited to see Rill back because she's been around for a while. And I think that she's an interesting kind of player in the space. She gives us access to the wider galaxy beyond the Force, the Jedi, the Nile. She gives us access to the regular everyday person in a way because of what she does and like her job makes the galaxy bigger to the reader. Because we have to imply the existence of the everyday person beyond our characters in the story in a different way. Right?
Yeah, totally. And she played like such a pivotal role in Eye of Darkness, like with the propaganda broadcasts and working with, I think she worked with, what's his face? Karras Tekka at one point to help him do some broadcasting, if I'm remembering correctly. There was some stuff. She's part of that like, network of insurgents, quote unquote, who are kind of like helping in the occlusion zone, that like and the Ugnaught, who's also in this at one point.
Yes.
Too.
His name is what? Beelan?
Yeah. Beelan. Yep.
Cool. I'm glad I remember that. Shout out. All right. Yeah, so I like that setup. I also remember really liking the setup of Tempest Runner too. There's this one really good fade in Tempest Runner where it's like fading from the bar to the other scene, and I just absolutely adored that. But we kind of get these fade in and out, which I like as a device too, because it makes the story tangible in the mind. Like it makes there be two different bubbles of what's going on as opposed to one single linear narrative that we're following. And I think that's an effective way to storytell in the audio drama, which obviously Cavan is exquisite at. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And I think the reason also like why I like this storytelling framework too is Lourna, because of all the things that she's done, even though she's trying to turn over a new leaf, I love how she toys with Rill a bit, because she's like, can you say your name for the recording? And she's like, my name. And in my mind, as I was hearing her say that, I'm like, okay, is she trying to, if she were in the court of law later on and she's like, I never said my name, you said my name, and I never confirmed nor deny that's me and then record it. It's like, I'm like, she's like, so gaslighty. She's gaslight gatekeep girl boss. It's like,
but it's also like Beyonce never has to introduce herself. Everybody knows it's Beyonce. I'm not saying Lourna Dee is Beyonce because I'm not, but like her whole brand is her name, and it's like you don't need to let me hear it. You already know it.
For sure.
You know, it's like when you go to the concert and the artist just like introduces yourself. Hi, I'm Taylor Swift. It's like, bitch, we all knew. We all knew. I'm at the Taylor Swift concert. I'm at the Eras tour. You don't have to introduce yourself as Taylor Swift.
Has anybody gone to a Taylor Swift concert and like for the opener, and then Taylor Swift comes out and they're like, wait, what? This is a Taylor Swift concert? I thought this was a Gracie Abrams concert.
Probably. But also like when I go to the K-pop concert, they all introduce themselves individually. And I'm like, girl, I knew it was you, Hoshi. You come out and do your tiger thing every time. I was prepared. I know what you look like. You know?
Oh my gosh. That's too funny. But
you don't have to tell me your name.
I just love the way that like Lourna, how she carries herself and just like in the way that she lets out the facts or maybe omits some facts, you know, it really makes you think about like, what did she omit versus what she told Rill, and like, what are the versions of the truth that we hear versus the versions of the truth that she's actually saying. So, I think that's why this just works really well for me. It kind of leaves maybe some things up to interpretation, especially like how she leaves things with Marchion, you know?
Right.
It's like, I think cause Rill says like, we don't know what happened to Marchion. Like we can't find any accounts of like you leaving him there. You know, we heard the Gaze Electric was in space, but like then it disappeared pretty quickly, and you know, we don't really know for a fact, right? So it's like, did she best him in that fight? Did she lose that fight and he left her for dead? You know, so it's really, really interesting to think about. What did you make of her turning over a new leaf though? Like now that she's freed from the Nile and she's part of the Tempest Breakers, and you know, this is sort of her purpose now. Like, what did you make of all that?
I fully support women's rights and women's wrongs. And I do think that in this case, this is a women's right. Shout out to Lourna Dee. She got Quinn back, right? She's starting her own thing. She's gonna be the CEO. And I support her in her mission. I think she should girl boss. It genuinely delighted me to get to see her kind of come into her own spotlight, because she's always been a really powerful character, but so much of her story has been in relation to Marchion Ro, right? She is a Tempest runner. She is next to all these men specifically. And like the other Tempest runners, obviously Marchion, etc. But I really like her owning her brand, owning her own story and destiny in this way, and completely kind of breaking away from them and doing her own thing. It reminds me a little bit of Affy's story, and how like Affy now runs the Bind Guild. Like I really kind of like these women stepping into their own.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and like we have 3 women frontlining this book as well, because not only does Lourna turn that new leaf, but she has to work alongside Keeve Trennis, who, you know, they've always been at odds.
Speaking of women coming into their own.
Yeah.
Keeve.
Becoming the marshal of the frontline, you know, defense coalition, not the Republic Defense Coalition, but like a new coalition of ships and people and anybody who wants to take a stand against the Nile. Keeve is going to be that leader now, right? But also now you have the former marshal of Starlight Beacon, Avar Kriss, who is the one who cut off Lourna Dee's hand. And now she's got to be her sponsor to basically say like, you know, we won't keep you here in prison, but if you can go do this thing for us, then, you know, we'll accept you, or, you know, we'll let you off, you know? And so I found that dynamic just really interesting throughout the book, kind of them like, you know, the rapport with each other and the teasing. And, you know, by the end, Lourna's calling Keeve by her first name. And, you know, she keeps herself in the science chamber for them to stop the virus from getting out, you know, which is a very like noble thing of Lourna Dee to do, especially for a Jedi. Right. And so I just thought that was like really cool as well. It was not like, it was all these characters sort of playing a role in Lourna's coming to moment, to realize like she doesn't want to just be a piece of somebody else's story, in this case Marchion. And like her and Marchion have a little bit of a fight here and there, right? Like Marchion kind of takes a stand at her and says like, I made you, like I killed my dad, not you. And he tries to throw that back in her face, and like she's just not having it, and she bites him in the throat, and I thought almost killed him when they're doing their little dance to the death, you know?
I support her.
Yeah.
He deserved.
Oh, totally. But I think that just like defiance of him and defiance of how she's defined by her relation to him is literally like Tempest Breaker, right? Like she's breaking the norm of the Tempests. She's breaking through that barrier, and she's now, you know, she's Lourna Dee truly, not Lourna Dee Tempest Runner.
Yeah, and I think we can suggest that maybe like her, I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know if we've gotten this in phase 3 at all, and forgive me if this is in the comics, but it seems like the Tempest and Storm system has maybe fallen apart a little bit because we've moved towards Gira's government style. Like we have players who have these major roles, but it's more of a setup like a government as opposed to, you know, a family tree.
Yeah, you're right. Because we've moved away from that Tempest format more into like the ministers, I think they're called. Like there's Vise and Bulin and Gira, like you said. So the Tempests are falling apart at the seams. And I think probably that is a bit of a wake up call for Lourna as well, to say like, I played a part in a lot of the things that happened in phase 1. I was at your side, and now you've kind of tossed all of us aside, and we're like fending for power on our own, and we're sort of scattered. So it's like, why should I like live my life by your rule and by your standards? Like I'm gonna break free from that. So I think it's really cool. And obviously like you and I love a good redemption arc. We love a good face turn, I think it's called, right? Face turn. In the situation of like, we can forgive. Keeve can forgive. Avar can see past her previous encounters with Lourna, in the way that because of Avar's hatred of Lourna Dee, and because she wanted to chase after Lourna Dee so badly, that's like part of the reason Stellan took over her marshal duties and went down with the Starlight Beacon, right? So I think there's also maybe a personal thing for Avar here, where it's like, if I don't seek forgiveness and Lourna, it's like kind of this grudge that's also linked to Stellan in some way. Like if I can't seek forgiveness of Lourna, it's like, I don't know, you know, like in some ways I feel like it's almost a personal vindication of Avar for her to turn over that new leaf with Lourna and put a little bit more trust in her, you know, than she started with. So I find some of the psychology of that interesting as well.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And like we see kind of Avar have to really kind of get over things pretty quickly once Lourna arrives. She's so angry. And Keeve is like, girl. Everybody's like, girl, hold your horses. We got important things going on. Calm down. Let's figure it out. So she has to work through that herself and then kind of see the situation around her.
It also kind of just like speaks to the larger threats happening, right? Like there's so much more going on that we need to pay attention to than like this. Whatever this is, there is a blight. The force itself is at risk. The galaxy is sickening. Like everything is sickening.
Some might say she should stop getting down with Elzar Mann if she wants to save the galaxy. But I'm here to say that girls can have it all too. They can be the hero and they can have the love interest. Thank you.
Hey, speaking of which.
It's a tangent, but I've got something to say.
I mean, speaking of Elzar, he does make an appearance. Was this his first audiobook appearance?
I don't know.
I can't remember if he was in Tempest Runner. Definitely wasn't in Battle of Jeddah. He was not born yet.
No, you mean he wasn't the main character in Battle of Jeddah?
So I think this is
I'm shocked.
This might be the first time we've heard Elzar's voice, voiced by Philip Hernandez, which is great. So I loved hearing his voice, and I love that he's also nicknamed Laser Man. Can we talk about that for a second? Why is that? I don't know if they explained that in the book or if we just never knew, but like,
this is what happens when we don't have a printed copy in front of us. We're like, I don't 100% remember.
I can't remember why. I wonder if it has to do with like his eyes, shooting lasers out of his eyes. But that's like also like very
obviously
our world, not Star Wars world. Like, do people in Star Wars, like, is there a precedent for lasers shooting out of eyes? Probably not. So like, I don't know. Like maybe he's just got like a stone cold stare, so they call him Laser Man or something. Or
right,
you know,
right. Watch us go back in the audio and be like, oh, there's the clear explanation we totally missed. We're good at this.
Yeah,
I promise.
Mm-hmm. We're so good.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Who else? Okay. Can we talk about Bulin?
Oh yeah, that's where I was thinking of going to next, because he plays a pretty major role here.
He plays a pretty major role here, and he got me. He got me for a minute, and I was like, "Damn it!"
Yeah. Yeah, Bulin, he had me in the first half. Not gonna lie,
I hate you bad. You sick loser. Okay, first of all, I've already had a negative opinion of Bulin since the very beginning because he's evil and bad and mean. And why would you hurt the uwu, never done anything wrong, nameless? Okay, why would you do that? You'd only do that if you're sick. And he's sick. And he's like, ooh, Sicarus, my child. And Sicarus is like, Dad, you're not my real dad, but you are my dad. And I was like, And now here he is. And he's like, I got all this data. I've been doing all this research. And everybody's like, we're going to steal your data. You're going to steal your research. And he's like, I got.
Just like all social media companies. He's so real
like
for that.
Our phones. Period. Bulin's like, hey guys, low key. Ooh, some interesting files in my data, isn't there? Some interesting files like, ooh, how I have a cure for the blight. And then everybody's like, oh, that's so important. That's the missing piece of the puzzle. That's the key we need. Let's get that out. Let's tell the people. Let's make that happen. And then he's like, you know what? Here's the sitch. I grew up. Come around. Come sit around. Come sit around. I have a story to tell. He's like, I was born on a planet called Donna. And it's like, oh fuck. All roads lead back to Donna. They always do. So baby Baron Bulin, baby on Donna, Night of Sorrow. Things go down. We were there. Oh, we read Path of Vengeance. I hope you did too. It's a good book. And he's like, I grew up in this place called the Path of the Other Hand, and they're all about gifts freely given. Gifts freely given. So let me give this gift to you. And everybody's like, lies. Lies. And you know who tells me that? Marchion Ro. What the fuck? Why is Marchion Ro telling me a truth? I was like, wait a second. The lines are being redrawn again. I don't know what's happening here. At the end of Temptation of the Force, and he's like, you gotta use me. I gotta get in on this because I am the only one who can stop this. Ha ha ha. You need me. You gotta work with me, losers. And I was like, dang it. But I'm like, he's still evil. Turns out Baron Bulin is eviler.
There's like so much to say about Bulin in this. First off, also, yeah, shout out Path of Vengeance. I think I failed to mention that one up front when we were talking about Cavan books, but another Cavan book, Cavan connection here.
An absolute banger of a book.
Yeah, no, I was so fooled because like we were having the turning over of a new leaf for Lourna, and then this Bulin stuff was happening with Skier, where he's like, hey, I cured your Magrak syndrome.
Right.
Like, you're not going to die from it. You can feel the force again. And I was like, oh shit. Like,
I was like, that's huge.
But then I was also like, I don't know how I feel about this. Cause I know Baron Bulin's done some terrible things to the Nameless. He's a sick individual. And so for a second I was like, are they really trying to like redeem Baron Bulin right now? I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then, he introduced the cure, and I'm like, well, we know there's not a scientific cure for the Blight. You and I know it's a fundamental cleanse the sin done to the Nameless situation. There's only one thing that's stopping that Blight, and it's returning those babies back home. And so then I was like, oh, I don't like science getting involved with the Blight now. I just want it to be a fundamental ethical moral dilemma that solves the Blight, right? Like this like very big question of how do we save light and life. I was very
you heard it here on the podcast first. He's anti-science. Anti-science. Pro vibes.
No, it's like we don't need midichlorians. I mean, I do like midichlorians now, but I was like, no, we don't need the science explanation
testing for
of the Blight.
midichlorians. Nobody stop trying to make midichlorians happen.
But like, I felt relieved at the end when I knew it was all a hoax. I was like, oh, I knew he was a freaking liar. Something didn't feel right about any of this. And I was like, oh, that freaking cure is also just BS. And it's actually a virus that he's going to inflict on everybody. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting Marchion's dynamics with Bulin throughout this. Marchion seems like he's in a very desperate spot. And part of me wonders if he truly thinks he can control the Blight as well as he does in Temptation of the Force, or if he's now realized it's spiraling so far out of his control and he has promised a solution to the Republic that now he is scrambling for anything that can help him keep any sort of political leverage that he has at the moment.
Isn't he still in possession of a couple of very important rods that our Jedi heroes are going to need?
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the lines being redrawn for our end game are so fascinating, because I still think that like he is an antagonist, you know, he is a problem for our Jedi. The Nihil are a problem for everybody. But maybe he realizes that the Blight will affect him too. And that's something that he needs to fix in order to have any power. Like you can't rule the galaxy if there's no galaxy to rule. So I feel like they might have a team up before they break up again. But I think we need those rods. I think we need those really important rods that do the really important thing. AKA End Talk Endgame. Egg Talk Endgame. Wow, no words, no thoughts. Yeah, ooh. Oh. But is Bulin gonna be an antagonist to Marchion after this? That I think that's a question, because he's got to stop me, or we got to stop him because he's done this thing. He's kind of betrayed me. Like how many corners of this like problem are there? You know, if this is capture the flag, how many starting points do we have? How many teams are there on the field?
I mean, I think Bulin's off the board now. And I think that
in stasis off the board.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I thought he was dead at first, and then you know he right. We find out he was in stasis, and he's like the Force will be free, the Force will be free, and he's like, you know, writing on the walls and stuff like Aslan Rel in a cage. But I feel like
we were like been there, seen that. Good luck.
Bulin is completely irrelevant now, and they've now captured one of Marchion's main ministers, one of his 3 ministers who are supposed to provide him any sort of support and any sort of semblance of structure within the Nihil that keeps Marchion's power intact, barely, right? So now that's a hit to his credibility. He's lost one of his ministers, but he's also lost the one minister that is a scientist and can maybe help him figure out the Blight situation, right? So it's like, I think he is going to turn to some very desperate measures. He is going to try some shit that's like, I'm going to throw stuff at the wall and see what works. And I think one of those things that he throws at the wall is going to end up killing him, because you try to mess with Mother Nature, baby boy, not going to work. Because Marchion doesn't fundamentally believe in egg talk. He doesn't recognize the sin and the nameless. He doesn't recognize that, like, you know, for all the things that Bulin said the path was right about, they were truly a corrupted, poison organization that was founded on a terrible sin. You know, They talked about freeing the Force, but they literally unbalanced the Force because they took these beings from their home planet. And I don't think Marchion recognizes that, because what he is currently running was built on his great grandmother Marta Ro and how she took the path of the open hand and formed it into something new. So like, he's not going to throw that away to like save the nameless and stop the Blight. He's at odds with his position, because like, in order for him to stop the Blight, he's going to have to get rid of the one weapon that he can use against anybody. There's going to be some interesting rod dueling, I'm sure, because we're going to get that Rod of Ages thanks to Reith and Comac and Amadeo, who are currently doing that stuff in the comics.
Shout out, Kings. I love you.
Let's get that Rod of Ages, boys.
Let's go. Yeah, I think we are in a really interesting point. Do you think that Lourna and the Tempest Breakers will make another appearance here in the final like Trials of the Jedi book? Do you think they're going to come up as a faction that maybe allies with the Jedi again, or episode 9, everybody shows up at the party sort of a vibe?
Yeah, 100%. I was exactly thinking Exegol. And I think, the purpose of this book is to set up that partnership with Lourna and Keeve. Like Lourna doesn't stick herself in a room to save the life of a Jedi and not come to her aid later on, So
right.
like this is the book to tell you, here's why Lourna Dee shows up in Trials of the Jedi, to be like middle finger to Marchion, and we're breaking through the storm wall together and we're just going to take him down.
Thrilling stuff. I'm so in. I'm so ready. I'm not ready. Don't let me read that. Don't make it end. I'm so sad. Wait a second. I take it back.
I do want to go back to the point you made about like Bulin recognizing the blight could affect him, or Marchion recognizing that maybe that's why he's in a frenzy, but also Bulin having that moment in this book where he has his cure and he's like, wait, the blight's not supposed to affect me. And Keeve makes the point that, the Force touches everything. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah.
Right?
You may not touch the Force, but the Force touches you. And I was like, oh, got him.
Yeah. And that was a big moment at the end of this book. But I think it's something that a lot of our characters across the books are learning at this moment, to realize like, oh, the Blight is not a Jedi problem. It is a everything problem. The Force is everything. The Force is in everything. The Force connects all things. Right. And thinking about the reversed, brightened up page of Trials of the Jedi that I took off Charles Soule's Instagram one day and tried to figure out what it says. As all I know is it says the Force. This is a story about the Force, and that's all.
Listen, we had to do it.
We had to.
We had to do it.
We're insane, right? But if we think about this in the context of Trials of the Jedi, and Trials of the Jedi is this like last hurrah to say like, let's save the Force. Just all these characters recognizing how important that is, and like that they are not the only holders of the Force. To say if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity.
Oh, you're so real for saying that. That's what a quote. What a quote.
Right. And so also it'd be fitting as well, for as long as the path said that the Jedi are the abusers of the Force, how fitting it would be for them to flip that narrative and say, no, we're the liberators of the Force. We're going to save it for everybody. So everybody, even if you don't use the Force touches all of us in some way. Bulin says the Blight is the result of the Force being out of balance because of its abusers, the Jedi. Yeah. So it's like, maybe we will finally see the Force be free, but not in the way that the path would think.
It's fascinating because he's halfway there, but like his reason is wrong.
I would love to see one of the Jedi characters say the Force is free in Trials of the Jedi. Like that's like the moment. The sigh, the deep breath after all of it, and just like, the Force is free for light and life. I'll cry. We didn't talk a lot about Skier. But like, I think maybe that's like one of the last things we could talk about here is like him coming back into the picture. And granted, like we didn't read the comics, although I think he was in those for this phase, but like, how did you feel about him like not being dead? Like he is alive. And also him now being by Keeve's side. Like he's going to do this thing with her. Like they're going to do it together. And they're side by side once again.
Trust me when I say that I support all of my characters not actually being dead. Except maybe Stellan. He's got to die. Sorry to Stellan. Like he's got to. Everybody was like, oh, Stellan lives. Truther. And I was like, You're wrong on that one. Buryagas can survive underwater in like an air pocket, but not Stellan. But I support all the masters coming back. Point being, Comac, very important return for me personally. Skier, I'm so glad he's not dead. I'm so glad that he has a cure for the Magrak syndrome, which has been plaguing him and has caused a rift. Right. I think it's great that Keeve can continue to have a relationship with her master and can continue to, work with him because he's been so important to her journey as a Jedi. And we know there is a lost 20 number called Trennis. We don't know more than that, but we can assume, right? We can assume. So how do we get from A to Z if that's the case, or is it somebody else, right? That becomes the question. But I'm glad that she still has this mentor in the now, and that he is on the mend, and that he can still be himself. Because I don't need more dead characters. Thank you.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned the Lost 20, because if we believe that to be Keeve Trennis and that she will leave the order at some point, she does show throughout this book. At one point, she gets very angry at Avar and is like, I'm done. This is annoying. Like, I don't believe, like, we're not doing the right thing.
Right.
And, they have a moment where Avar is like, please do this with me. And they kind of like call out to the Force and do that thing. But part of me wonders, like, is Keeve in it for the Jedi, or is Keeve in it now for Skier? And likewise, I think about Comac and Reath, where Comac is very disillusioned with the Jedi. Does Comac come back for the Jedi Order, or does Comac come back for Reath? And when we keep thinking about how to confront fear and what it means to confront fear, the common theme we keep seeing is it's like you gotta confront. The only way to confront fear is not to make it a weapon. It's to help one another and do it together. We are stronger together than we are divided. And so that's how you battle fear. And I think Keeve recognizes, like, Skier doing this, committing to this, is like, I want to commit to it because Skier's committing to it. I don't know if Keeve still believes in the Order as much as she might put on. She's just in it for Skier. Comac's just there because he wants to help Reath.
I think that's a really interesting take. And I can't find myself, like, really having any large points of disagreement on that. Like, the people, the community is what keeps people in a lot of things that aren't right for them, right? Whether it be relationships or religions or what have you. It's like, oh, if I leave this thing, relationship, religion, etc., then I lose the community around it. And Keeve doesn't want to give up on her community. And maybe she has some feelings about the institution. Comac refuses to give up on his community, but he's definitely given up on the institution in that way. He did leave. He literally ran. So I think that's a really, really compelling point. It'll be really interesting to see where both Comac and Keeve and Skier. I mean, I think Reath is pretty stuck. I feel like Reath has maybe the strongest mind about his position in the Jedi and etc. But the rest of them, I'll be curious to see kind of where they end up at the end of all this. Hopefully not dead. Please keep them alive.
I find it very interesting how a lot of the motivations that we're seeing from our characters have to do with the people as opposed to the institution. Like, it's not like I want to save the Order. It's like, I want to save the Force. I'm doing this because I follow the light. I'm doing this because I believe in you, Reath. I'm doing this because we are all connected to one thing together, right? So it's sort of like separating the Jedi from the Force, and to say, like, I'm saving the Force, not the Jedi.
Right.
The Jedi are not the arbiters. They're not the owners of the Force. Exactly. I save the Force because it's the Force, not because it's the Jedi attached to you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah. I just can't wait. I can't wait for whatever is left in the High Republic. I can't believe it's almost over.
I know. That's how I feel every time we do one of these. It's like, oh man, I can't believe we're one step closer to the end. Like, I hate this for us. Before we wrap up, before we kind of say our parting thoughts, maybe a couple odds and ends if we have them, I just want to highlight the performances of the whole cast, because this is like a really big cast. There are, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 names on this, at least on this list that Brad has copied into our document. And I think there's really good performances throughout this entire thing. I really appreciated our returning voices as well as new folks. And I appreciated the way that this was sound mixed as well. I felt like I could really clearly pull in and out of the interview scenes and into the story. And I felt like I could visualize it pretty well, because that's the marker to a good audio drama. Can you visualize the action that you're just hearing? And I did feel that in this piece throughout most of it, which is good, because sometimes I can get lost in the action for sure. And I just have to shout out to Mark Thompson, who portrays everybody in this. Skier, Baron Boulin, and Marchion Ro. Let's give him another one. Let's give him another character to do. Yeah. Just a couple more. As if those are like 3 of the most major characters in this thing. I also want to highlight Saskia Margeveld as Evar. I enjoy her performance whenever she appears. And I want to shout out Kristen C as Real Dyro. We talked about how much we like Real as a character. I find her really interesting. And Shannon Teo as Quinn. I don't think we talked enough about Lourna and Quinn in this conversation, but Lourna and Quinn writes, do they have a ship name? I don't know it. Do they have a ship name? If you're listening, please tell me their ship name.
Lauren.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Let's keep
Corna.
it. Corna
or Lauren.
All right.
Yeah.
We can probably
workshop it. Yeah, for sure.
We can workshop it. I don't know. Somebody's probably already come up with it, but I'm just not in the know.
I do want to shout out, apologies if I'm mispronouncing, Manuel Feliciano as Tay Sarek. Tay Sarek returning from phase 2 of the High Republic in Cavan's comics. Now older, now has the big white beard. I thought he was a very fun character to have around throughout this. Again, I need to catch up on the comics to read more of like his return and like what that means and kind of the importance of it. But I really enjoyed him throughout phase 2. I really enjoyed him.
Now I'm looking at his phase 3 beard. It's very impressive.
I know. He's really grown up quite a bit. He's a guardian. He's a guardian of the Wills, I believe, still. Or no, he's a former guardian of the Wills.
He says once a guardian, always a guardian at one point in the story.
It's like you can take the Tay Sarek out of the Guardians of the Wills, but you can't take the Guardians of the Wills out of the Tay Sarek. You know, that's kind of
made that so wordy. And we're gonna do the full title and his full name. But he's still wearing green. Good for him. Green's a good color on him. Yeah, I enjoyed his presence as well, for sure. Also, Muglin was not my friend when Muglin's story ends. I was like, Muglin, why do we gotta fight right now? Why are we fighting right now, Muglin?
Yeah, not a Muglin lover.
January Lavoie, though, love January Lavoie.
Super good,
of course,
super good,
iconic, like an icon. I adore her.
Although while we don't like Muglin as a character, we do like Orbelin, which is kind of the similar sounding. Orbelin makes a triumphant return, although he was in the comics
as goo.
Out of context image we saw floating around of him just like in a little goo holding a saber in his like little goo body. And he's in like computers in this book. He's like sifting around in the wiring and stuff, and he's like blah, 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 blah. And I don't see the voice actor for Orbelin here, but I loved how he sounded, and it was just, I don't know, it was always very funny when he was talking. So I'm glad that he's still around. And yeah, I think Lourna actually says at one point like, oh, he is like literally goo, like that's okay. Which I love. I was like, yeah, that was the exact reaction I had, Lourna.
He doesn't wear the like suit anymore, so he's just an amorphous blob of goo. Very iconic of him. Live your truth, King.
But yeah, overall, great cast. I think that's just one of my favorite things about these releases. It's not just like one narrator, it's just an ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, these keep me a lot more engaged than like your typical Star Wars audiobook. Even though the audiobooks are like very, very, very good still, but like these are just another level of fun. So I hope we get another one of these soon. Del Rey, keep pumping these out if you're listening, please.
Yes, we do love them.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
Okay, so odds and ends. I have one, and you have we should end on yours because yours is fantastic.
Mine is most important, obviously.
Yeah. My only odds and ends was the mantra, the ancient force mantra that Skier kept talking about. which was first introduced in Dooku Jedi Lost, actually, which I did some research and found out. So wonder if there's
who wrote Dooku Jedi Lost, I wonder.
Maybe a certain Cavan Scott.
No way.
But it is, we call upon the three, light, dark, and balance true. One is no greater than the other. Together, they unite, restore, center, and renew. We walk into the light, acknowledge the dark, and find balance within ourselves. The force is strong. So this is like sort of the thing that Sker keeps going back to throughout the book to like keep himself centered. But I just found it really interesting, you know, coming off of the Tears of the Nameless, which we, I guess like slight spoiler alert, we learn about some three ancients, and I'll just say like, I find it interesting that I hadn't really considered the importance of the number 3 in Star Wars and light, dark, balance being 3 important things within the Force. And just thinking about how, you know, other things that are in 3 is the path of the open hand, freedom, harmony, and clarity, right? So, I don't know, it's just interesting. Yeah, there's some stuff going on there, but I like that it's we walk into the light. Next title of the YA book, we walk into the light, acknowledge the dark, which is like, you know, you can't ignore the dark. You gotta acknowledge the fear, recognize it for what it is, and then find your balance, right? So it's that's kind of like, I think that's sort of like a little bit of a blueprint of what our Jedi could do when facing their own trial. So I really liked that whole mantra. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on it, but I liked that a lot.
I just feel like we should put a pin on it and come back to it when/if the Dawn of the Jedi movie comes out.
True. Yes.
Who knows? Planting seeds of prophecies that now become the center of our entire fandom lives a few years down the road. It could happen.
Yeah.
There's precedent. There's precedent.
You never know. What could be the next egg prophecy? You just never know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
We're having too much fun.
Mine is probably the most important though. So like screw that. Like dark balance, whatever. I'm here to talk about the Yarvelian Institute on Proto Branch, the center of the Blight research. This is obviously super important. You know, I couldn't pass up a High Republic or just any Star Wars conversation without mentioning an Institute of Higher Learning, an academic institution, a science place, lab, if you will. But I think it's interesting that there's a center of Blight research, and also like, why isn't Wreath there? Low key question. But just a thought. I don't know.
You love your institutes of higher learning. Do you think Alexander Freed is going to introduce a new one in Mask of Fear?
Absolutely. And if he doesn't, I'll be a little bit sad.
Cool.
because the Quantitative Institute, Institute of Quantitative Studies on Bathawui is like really important and foundational to me. It's like one of the glub shittos of my life, you know? There's a few of them. K's are at the Vice, as we all know. Institute of Quantitative Studies on Bathawui. You know what? I think if Alexander Freed wants to invent a new genre of music in the Star Wars universe, in the Mask of Fear as well, I don't know what context music would come up in, but like if he wants to do that again, I'll be thrilled. Rec punk, scatterbop.
I was just pulling up the Wikipedia page for Bathawui. Did you know it gets mentioned in The Last Jedi?
In what context?
It just says mentioned only. It's also mentioned in some Clone Wars episodes. It's mentioned in Rebel Dawn. And it is mentioned across many Old Republic books. So I find that very fascinating. It looks like Bathawui is actually like in Bothan space.
Yeah, well, that would make a certain amount of sense, would it not?
But like, yeah, I just, you know, little moment here.
It's in Bothan space. It's the homeworld of the Bothans.
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about Bathawui. We're here to talk about the Yarvelian Institute. Where does this like rank for you in terms of, you should make a ranking at some point. Are you keeping track of your institutes of higher learning?
No, I'm not.
You should really start doing that.
You're right. I think that the Yarvelian Institute is really important, but it doesn't have, and it had a little punch. It had a little punch when I heard it. Center of Blight research, that's obviously like really important to me personally, but I don't know. I could go either way on it. So I think we're gonna have to get a couple more under my belt before I can like decide where this one ranks in the great ranking. You know how it's like the magazine that comes out and it ranks all the colleges that you can go to, like what's the best college to apply to.
Like the US News website that we all pulled up like 30,000 times our senior year to be like, where am I gonna go?
Exactly that. That's me with all of the Star Wars institutions. They may not all be like secondary education or post-secondary education, but they are academic spaces, and that's what I'm here to rank.
Yeah, you need to make like the US News version of that for sure. Like I want to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Well, Sarah, this has been a good conversation. Our audiobook coverage is always a little different, a little on the shorter side because like we literally just can't, there's no way for us to do a 20-page Google Doc and be just like absolutely unhinged about it. So we spared you listeners this time. You only got an hour from us, but stay tuned because we have a lot more coming up in the months ahead. We are obviously charging forward with our High Republic coverage, but truly the next book up on the docket for us to cover is The Mask of Fear by Alexander Freed, because we do not have a book until April for the High Republic, which we have some other plans in April that will line up with The Mask of Fear. So you're gonna want to stick around. You're gonna want to stick around. We won't spoil the beans quite yet, but we got some good stuff.
The Mask of Fear comes out in February, to be clear, but
correct.
Just to forewarn you, listener, we will be having a little bit later of a conversation, despite us. We're gonna be on time with that book. Don't worry. We're just gonna strategically plan our conversation for some other things. Just don't want to hype it up too much, but
I know. I wonder what else is happening in April. You just gotta ask yourself that. I don't know. We'll be halfway across the world. But what else is going on? Anyways, but thank you all for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode, but you can find us on all of our socials. We're mainly on Blue Sky now, for the pod account. We're also on Instagram. Not really posting on Twitter as much, but you can follow us there as well if you'd like. And, if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to whatever podcast feed that you listen to. We seem to have a lot more listeners over on like Spotify, which is pretty cool. So wherever you listen is perfect. Subscribe, leave a review. Hopefully we're in your Spotify Wrapped next year, which speaking of which, we got some loyal listeners we found out on our Spotify Wrapped. There's 31 of you at least or something that are like
31 that have us as their like number one
number one podcast or something. Yeah. That's like that's pretty great. Feel
like
humbled.
A whole classroom full of people. Okay. That's a lot of people. Yeah. There's more people that have us in their top 5 or top 10. So thank you very much if that's you. And if it's not you either, like that's okay too. Thank you for listening to this episode. We're very grateful for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you to those who have us as your number one on Spotify. Thanks for spending time with us this year. We're just really appreciative of everybody who joins us for conversations. We know that there are so many Star Wars podcasts, and if you probably listen to us, you probably listen to our friends and peers along the Star Wars podcasting hobby space as well. And we're so grateful to be among so many awesome voices in this fandom. But thank you for spending part of your day with us. We're just two pals who sit on Zoom all the time. And we're grateful that you join us for that. So yeah. And if you don't listen to us on Spotify, I listen on Pocket Casts. So if you listen on Pocket Cast, shout out to my Pocket Cast friends.
Oh my God. You mentioned having a classroom of people who were in like their top 5, like enough to have a classroum. We should have a classroom
that's
at
our number 1.
Quantitative Institute of Bathawui. Like that's where we'd have the classroom.
Everybody.
That's the Egg Talk class.
Our meetup for 2022 celebration Anaheim was at a Denny's. This one's next time we all meet up, we're going to be at the Institute of Quantitative Studies on Bathawui. Let's fucking go.
Although you just made me realize too, this is our last episode of 2024, which is
that's
wild.
Why I was doing a little bit of nostalgic wrap up here.
I know, yeah. No, only thing I'd add to that is like we had a pretty fun year. We had the Acolyte. We had a lot of High Republic books. We had was the Bad Batch this year too?
I think so.
I can't even remember anymore. It is all a blur.
Old Omega. Adult Omega.
Oh yeah, that was this year. Yeah.
My queen. Love you. Young Jedi Adventures.
Yeah, Young Jedi. Oh my god.
We had some fun stuff going on this year, and we'll definitely reminisce about it on our May the 4th episode for sure, as you mentioned, because that's when we decide the year begins and ends. The calendar year might change, but our year calendar changes at May 4th.
That's our fiscal year. Yep.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, it's wild. We didn't do as many episodes this year as we usually do. Hoping to change that a little bit next year if we're less busy.
We're cooking behind the scenes. We're hoping to have some good stuff for you next year. So
yeah. Speaking of threes, the number 3, like 2022 was a absolute banger year for us. And now we're 2025, which is 3 years later. So I'm like, something going on with that every 3 years. And then 3 years before 2022 was 2019. We had like, Tross and Mando and like Disney Plus stuff, and Obi-Wan announced. And
do you know what also falls on these threes that we've been talking about here? Prequel anniversaries.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This definitely matters for us.
Is this like when Mercury's in retrograde, but like for us, it's like when the like prequels are in retrograde because they're their anniversary years?
But aren't things like bad when Mercury's in retrograde, and like it's like, oh, everything's going wrong because Mercury's in retrograde. It's like the opposite of that for us. It's like, oh, things are starting to align when we have a prequel anniversary.
Yeah. What can we call that? We need to come up with a name for like Mercury retrograde, but like for the prequel anniversaries. So it's like the years that end in 9, 2, and 5.
We'll figure it out. We'll workshop some stuff.
Yeah, we gotta think about that one. Oh man, we're really off the deep end. We're gonna turn this like nice clean hour 15 episode into like a 2-hour episode. So we gotta stop. You go
just yapping. So follow us on our socials. Brad already did that part a while ago, and I'm here to
10
say
10 years ago. I've already grown more of a beard.
Right, he's got a beard right now, guys.
I know, it's great.
Thank you so much to everybody. Warm. Oh my God, I'm literally here to do an outro. Thank you so much to everybody who spent the time, and to our patrons who help keep the lights on at Friends of the Force. Thank you an extra bunch. To Brian, Ben, Cheryl, Clay, Comment, David, Emma, Jennifer, Julia, Katie, Knights of Ren, Krista, Leanne, Logan, Lucy, Lindsay, Matthew, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Sky Talker, Sophia, Tom, and Travis. Thank you all very much for your support. We appreciate you a lot. Hope you are staying healthy, happy, hydrated, warm, delighted. I don't know. During this holiday season, please take care of yourselves. Full of ham, or other foods if you don't eat ham. That's cool too.
Yes.
But please take care of yourself, and take care of those around you this holiday season. Help a neighbor in need. And yeah, let's get through these cold winter months together. See you in the next one.
Heck yeah. Happy New Year to everybody here. Thank you. 2024, we're closing the page. Here we come, 2025, better than ever. So thank you all for being on this journey with us this year. Thank you, Sarah. You're awesome. You're my bestie.
Thank you, bestie.
I'll see you next year.
Right back.
Literally, I'll see you in person next year. It's going to be great.
That's right.
I didn't see you in 2024. That's why I was a little off here. We got to fix that.
That is why.
Yeah.
That is why.
Yeah. Actually, that's why it was a little bit of a flop.
We're going to fix that.
Yeah.
We're fixing it in 2025.
We're fixing it. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, may the Force be with you always.